So this guy got amnesia and forgot who he was for 14 years. Now the guy's name is Jim, and Jim is 50 years old. He's a mailman living in New York State. But see, Jim has a problem. He's kind of clumsy. I mean, he's always falling and busting his ass. Like, bro really needs instructions on walking. And one day in 1971, it all starts to catch up to him. Because he's at home and it's a normal day and he goes to take the garbage out and he slips down the icy steps and boom, he hits his head on the pavement. A few days later, he's driving to work and ashoo, he suddenly starts sneezing like crazy and he somehow loses control of his car and bam, he crashes into a telephone pole and he hits his head again. The next day, he goes to work, and, he's trying to be chill at this point, like, okay, I just need to not trip on anything. But then, I guess because he had hit his head in the days before, he suddenly gets all dizzy, and whoa, he falls down a flight of stairs, and bam, he hits his head yet again. And luckily, for the next 10 days, Jim manages not to get into any accidents. Which at this point is like quite an achievement. But then, he's out driving, and he loses control of his car again, and kaboom! He crashes his car again, and pow! He hits his head. This time, he hits it so hard that it knocks him unconscious. And he's rushed to the hospital, and he spends 3 days there recovering with a cerebral concussion. And if that isn't bad enough, a few weeks later, he has his worst day yet. And this day changes his whole life. So it seems like a normal day, and he borrows his friend's station wagon. Probably because he just wrecked his other car twice. But he borrows the station wagon because he's got to drive and pick someone up from the airport. So he takes it out, and while he's driving, his wallet falls out of his pocket and into the floorboard. A few hours later, he returns the car to his friend, not realizing his wallet had fallen out. And his friend offers him a ride home, and Jim's like, nah, bro, I'll walk, because it's only like 15 minutes away. Then, on his walk home, he starts getting this terrible headache. And this one's really bad, like worse than he's ever had. It's so bad, he's not sure if he can make it home or not. Now, let's pause this story for a second. We'll get back to Jim. But first, we gotta talk about this woman, Anne. Anne is Jim's wife. Anne is also waiting on Jim to get home from borrowing that friend's station wagon. And so she's sitting there in her house, chillin', and she waits, and she waits, and she waits, but there's no sign of Jim. And around 2 a.m., she's still sitting there waiting. And he's still not home. And remember, this walk should have taken 15 minutes at most. And so Anne calls the police, and she officially reports him missing. Within the next day, everyone is looking for Jim. The police put out an APB looking for him. They start reaching out to his friends and relatives to see if anyone's seen him. They're checking bodies in the local morgue to see if he's one of them. But so far, they don't find anything. And poor Anne, she doesn't know what to do. I mean, her longtime husband just suddenly vanished one night walking home. I mean, was he kidnapped? Was he unalived? No one knows. And so several years pass, and still no one has heard anything, and there are no leads. And poor Anne now spends her time just living alone, hoping her husband will come home one day. And she takes odd jobs around town to try and pay the bills, and she works nights and weekends just to keep busy so that she doesn't have to think about Jim. And she doesn't move to a new place or anything. She keeps their phone number listed under his name, just in case anyone finds him and decides to call. And eventually, sadly, she officially has Jim declared dead, as there is no other explanation for where he might be. Until... Here's the thing about Jim. We know Jim is a klutz. We've seen him bust his skull several times in the same week. So here's what really happened to him on his walk home that night. So Jim is on his way home, and he's not feeling well, a huge headache, and suddenly, boom, he completely blacks out. And there's no record of what happens in this next part, but the speculation is this. After blacking out, he goes and he catches a local train from his town into Grand Central Station in New York City. And from there, he potentially catches another train or a bus, and he ends up in Pennsylvania, specifically in Philadelphia. And during all that, he is completely blacked out, like he just doesn't remember. And so the next memory Jim has, he's suddenly standing in downtown Philadelphia, a city he's never been to before. And he doesn't remember his full name, he doesn't remember where he's from or how he got there or anything about his past. The only thing he can remember is that his first name is Jim. And to make it worse, he doesn't have his wallet on him because it fell out in his friend's station wagon, so he can't just look at his license and identify himself. And so I guess he just doesn't think to go to the police or hospital, and he's just oh, I guess I'll just start a whole new life. And he goes to the local offices of the Social Security Administration, and he gets a Social Security card with a fake name he just gave himself. And normally you'd need a birth certificate to get a Social Security card, but it's the 70s, so I guess everyone's fuck it. So he gets a card and he uses that as his ID, and he's able to get a job at a local cafe. And from here, he starts to rebuild his life. He gets several more jobs after that, ending up as a cook at a diner. He joins a nearby church. He makes a whole new circle of friends. Every winter season, he grows out this big white beard and he volunteers as Santa Claus at some of the local orphanages. Bro is just trying to live a normal life, I guess. And 14 years go by since Jim went first missing, and he's 64 years old now, and he's still living this second life over in Philadelphia. And one night, it's Thanksgiving, and everything changes for him again. Because he's over at his friend's house visiting, and they're all watching TV, and they're watching some movie. And randomly, a mailman appears on the TV screen. And suddenly, boom, it hits Jim like a brick. He's like, hey, I think I used to be a mailman. Not only that, some fuzzy memories start coming back to him, like memories of him and his parents. It's weird, but he's still not really sure what's going on. Now, despite the fact that Jim has this whole new life, I guess some things just never change. Because at his very core, he is still clumsy as fuck. And about a month later, Jim has another fall and pow, he hits his head. Then a day after that, Jim's at work and he falls and bam, hits his head yet again. Here's the thing though. Him cracking his noggin must have finally knocked something straight, because the day after that, he wakes up and kaboom, it all hits him at once. All his memories start flooding back to him. His real name is Jim McDonald. He lives in upstate New York, and most importantly, he has a wife named Anne, a wife who hasn't seen him in 14 years. And so immediately he travels from Philadelphia over to New York, and he goes to his old house where he used to live years ago, thinking hopefully Anne still lives there. And ding dong, he rings the doorbell. And of course, boom, Anne answers, because she still lives there because she's been waiting for him all these years. And so finally, after 14 years apart, she sees that he's still alive. And I'm sure she's shocked and she's relieved at the same time. Regardless, after all that, they finally get to be together again. And from there, they smash? I actually don't know what they do from there. I assume they smash. What do older people do? I don't know. It's a happy ending. That's all you need to know. And a huge shout out to Leonardo.ai for sponsoring this video. If you make videos and you want to make really badass art for those videos, like this, or like this, look at how cool that is. Sign up for Leonardo.ai.